Let's freaking go, guys! Professor X is coming to the game as the next big guy in the game. The Age of X is going to be a year-long chase for us to sink our teeth into, and this is huge. This is the first time we're going to have a hero be the big chase in the game. We had Ultron, we had Doom, we had Dormammu, Apocalypse, Super Skrull, and now we got Mephisto. It's time for us to bring the big cannons out on the good guy side. It's time for Professor X to come and stop everyone in their tracks. Let's go. I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, I've been partnering with Raid on another channel, and I've been playing through for the last 30 days. I gotta say, I've definitely fallen in love with this game. And if you want to come join me, make sure you use that QR code in the bottom right corner, now in the middle of the screen, because that is going to get you a bunch of goodies. And when you do, try and join in on Mark Clan. We do have a little bit of room still in the Dorky Den. That's right, we are being very competitive in this early game and having a lot of fun. But what does Raid have for you? Well, right now, it is their 5th year anniversary, and they have a lot of goodies going on, especially if we go and we look at one of these offers here, the 5th year anniversary. We're getting a Sacred Shard, 3 Ancient Shards, a Primal Shard, an Immortal Stone, some Void Shards, a bunch of Sim tokens, a Legendary Book, and 5 million silver you play with in the form of a calendar. You're going to want to go ahead and get that as soon as possible. Let me claim that right now. But besides that, Raid Shadow just has so much going on, from the multitude of bosses, the Minotaur, the clan boss Demon Lord, the dragon, the ice golem. There's so much going on, to the amazing faction wars where you get to build your roster super ride. Speaking of rosters, there are so many characters to be building. Check it out. We got Bannerlords, High Elves, Sacred Order Barbarians, Ogre Tribes, Lizard Men, Dark Elves, Sylvan Watchers, the Shadowkin. The list goes on and on. There is literally, what is this, 130, 400, 600, there's 800 characters in the game to play, but it's not in an overwhelming, because you kind of just get who you get and you play with it, and there's so many characters to fit different roles for whatever you're looking for. Some of my favorite characters, I really am digging Stag Knight from the Bannerlords, what he's bringing to my team in the form of control with decreasing speed and decreasing defense and decreasing attack on the enemy has been instrumental in me pushing lots and lots. But there's also some great PvP modes to sink your teeth into, from the arena to the team arena to the live arena, which I haven't got to play yet. It is definitely the time to start playing Raid Shadow Legends right now. Once again, use that QR code in the bottom right corner, now in the middle of the screen, to come and join me. You get a bunch of goodies, including what you see on the screen here. But don't take it from my words. Go download the game using that QR code. Come play with me. Check out our second channel, which will be linked in the description and in the pinned comment below. But for right now, let's get back into the video. Alright guys, so this is going to be our version of Professor X from the Dawn of X comic book series, where he's a badass. He's a badass leader. He's not going to be an old man in a wheelchair. You're not going to get to beat him up. What is wrong with you for wanting that? Though I kind of wanted that too, because it'd be funny for the first time. But let's talk about what Age of X is going to be. So Age of X is going to be basically a mirror to the Age of Apocalypse, but done better. We'll talk about what that means. But narratively, Marvel Strike Force is going to be building up to this Professor X unlock, which you can expect to happen for a lot of players early 2025. For a lot of spenders, early 2025. And then a few months later, other players of light spenders, guppies, then free-to-play, they'll all start trickling in, and they'll be getting Professor X, kind of like what happened with Apocalypse, if you had it then. Do we know what his unlock's going to be? We have no idea yet. They're keeping that tight to the chest. When they tell me, I will tell you. I won't leak it to you. I'll tell you when they tell me I can tell you. All right? So narratively, the characters coming out in the game are going to be tied to this Professor X storyline, but that doesn't mean 100% mutants. It doesn't mean that characters that haven't interacted with Professor X in the comic books, they're not disqualified from being released during this window, okay? Marvel Strike Force can do their own storyline to build up into this, and you're going to expect some interesting characters to come out, including the legendary characters. So legendary characters like Mephisto, where Nova, Black Cat, and Green Goblin built into that. We're going to have the legendary characters definitely building up to it, because they are already told us it's going to be like Scourge-like unlocks. So that Scourge storyline should build into Professor X. Very cool, right? Which means there's going to be a Deadpool character is going to be getting tied to Professor X. I think that's dope. I'm interested to see how funny it's going to start out. Is Professor X going to be introduced to the story in a comical way, and then it'll get serious as we progress? We'll have to wait and see. So what is the story going to be about? Well, they're going to try and answer the most important question: where the heck has Professor X been during this time? Because his mutants have been becoming more and more irrelevant every single patch. which they kind of solved recently with a couple reworks. We're definitely going to talk about that too. But Phoenix needs some love, right? Phoenix needs some love. Let's talk about some of the other artistic options they had. So they had these kind of 5 choices that made it to the final chopping board, if you will. They ended up going with number 1. Number 2 is kind of a business casual look. That'd be kind of weird on the battlefield. 3 and 4 kind of look too much like Sunspot, kind of too much like a generic character. And number 5 is clearly just Lex Luthor. That's just Lex Luthor. You can't do that. All right, so I'm glad that didn't make it. So number 1 was the choice. No wheelchair. It is what it is. Maybe that could be a skin further down the line that we could play against once. Because, like, beating up on the guy, it's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird take, right? But the Age of X has technically already started, in my opinion. We got the Extreme release, which is hugely powerful X-Men characters, particularly Nightcrawler with his on-spawn speed up, plus the speed bar he gives, plus everything that he does, this turn 1 stun, all that kind of stuff, right? So that is going to be huge. And the X-Men rework. So we're getting a lot of X-Men love, which is going to be really cool because Professor X will have the X-Men tag. The first event is going to begin in April for new and returning players, so it's going to be catered towards that sort of power level of your roster. So it's not going to be a challenge for the endgame players. It's going to be just a nice narrative opening, probably easy reward collection. A couple new players and mid-game players will have to build up to complete it most likely, and that's going to be that, right? Legendaries and other teams will be connected to Professor X, but there's no future team. So I just talked about the X-Men reworks. I talked about Extreme. That doesn't necessarily mean that Professor X is slated to become an X-Men focused team. Like Apocalypse, we all kind of theorized the Horseman angle. They didn't go that route. Instead, it was just he's a plug-and-play character, which is the intention behind Professor X, but he does have that X-Men tag for theory crafting possibilities. I brought up Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is such a glue for X-Men characters with that speed bar that he gives. You kind of got to take that into account. Unless something is nullifying speed bar, like we have Cabal and that sort of thing now, right? Or Mephisto when he does Exposed, I believe. So you can expect that he's going to have plug-and-play value, but you're going to be eyeing some of your more valuable X-Men members for sure to pair with him because he does have that synergy. But with the Age of X, we do have some concerns, right? So the failures of the Age of Apocalypse. Well, the biggest failure was agency. The Scourges themselves were a huge success. The teams themselves, we think about Darkhold, we think about, well, let's not talk about Limit. Let's talk about Darkhold, let's talk about Gamma, let's talk about Deathseed. Hugely successful teams. Unlimited was okay when we had the literal Age of X Crucible season. People liked those teams. They liked building those teams. So I'm not worried about the legendary characters coming out, having their teams and people liking that. But what they're not going to lean into is the sort of failure in the sagas like we had for the Age of Apocalypse. You're not going to have to build up whatever this Deadpool team is all the way to Gear Tier 19, ISO Purple 20, or whatever the heck or maybe it's going to be a Moments, maybe it's going to be a Battle World thing. Whatever the heck the unlock requirement is going to be for Professor X, you're not going to have to build up the entire team for that. Apparently, I don't want to speak that and they go back on it, but they said agency will not be in question. What I do imagine is going to happen is that the legendary characters will be part of the unlock. We might all have to max out those legendary characters, which honestly I'm perfectly fine with. If you haven't maxed out your Nova, you're missing out, so I think that'd be good for players. Same with Black Cat, same with Green Goblin. Like, these are standalone characters that just do better with their teams. So that tiny takeaway of agency I think would be okay. As long as they don't then lean super heavy into it. Because when we look back at the sagas now, like I have the new account, right? I look back at the sagas, or I look up to the sagas, I'm like, I gotta build up these teams. And they've kind of already backpedaled about that a little bit when they release a character like Leader that can help you on like Apocalypse. Hopefully we get more of that, but we shouldn't have that issue with the Age of X. The suspected team up with no payoff, they're squashing that right now. There is going to be no Professor X X-Men team. You're going to have plug-and-play value. There's definitely X-Men characters that'll make him better. He'll definitely make X-Men characters better, but it's not set in stone this is a team. We all thought Apocalypse and his 4 Horsemen were going to be a team because that's 5 characters, and every game mode requires 5 characters, up until the Clinton Tower, the Kyle Tower, if you will. So that's good. That's good, right? That's good. And then new and returning players, they should be able to play in the event. See, the reason I'm putting these things into quotation marks because I'm not sure how I feel about that. Let me read a direct line. Age of X is a framework to connect all our great events together narratively. New and returning players should be able to hop into the game, play the events they love, and enjoy the Age of X story without having to play catch-up. there's a lot of words missing here. This doesn't say play the events to unlock a legendary character. So it doesn't say you should be able to unlock legendary characters as a new or returning player. It doesn't say you should be able to unlock Professor X at the end of the year. There's a lot of generalized words here that can mean a lot of things. I would suspect that you're still going to need to be mid-game in order to unlock the legendary characters. At least like level 80, year tier 15 to unlock the legendary characters and to go from there. Or maybe they're even going to move that up, because as the game progresses, the requirements to get these best characters progresses, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if you could play it, you could see the story, but you're not going to unlock everything everybody else is going to unlock. So I think this is very flowery wording, but I want to set the expectations properly. All right, let's end on this. So Mephisto was released today, kind of. Like Dark Dimension 7 was open today. So is Mephisto dead on arrival? Don't be dumb. Oh my god, don't be dumb. How many content creators were questioning Apocalypse and if you should go unlock Apocalypse given Super Skrull existed? If you listen to them, then how many times have you looked up for a counter and seen Apocalypse as like the prime member of that team? When people unlock Mephisto, are we going to go back and say, why unlock Skrull? Even though you kind of get it along the way. Of course not. These characters they're literally, I guess they call them zero tier characters. These are amazing characters. Mephisto is not dead on arrival. Here's the timeline that I am a little bit worried about, though. For the majority of players, a Dark Dimension character, and not the majority of, like, guppy spenders, people who get passes, let's put it that way, people who get passes. The people who just buy passes, for them, it's probably going to take 9 months to a year to unlock Mephisto, unless they drastically change how the gear economy works with these new characters, right? So if they are a active player, they'll probably be unlocking Mephisto very quickly, then unlocking Professor X. Is that innately bad? No, because in a mode like Crucible, a mode like War, a mode like Arena, these characters are going to either work together to make super teams, or you're going to use them against different options. So they're still going to have immense value, okay? So if any content creator is saying, Mephisto's dead, don't go for Mephisto, they're probably dumb. And you should tell them they're dumb. You should still say subscribe to them, you should still support them, but you should tell them they're dumb for that dumb opinion or that clickbaity opinion. Mephisto is a great character. Let's not get it twisted. Maybe Professor X is going to come into the game, he's going to say, hey, no speed stat manipulation. And then Mephisto's like, oh no, I'm stuck at 127 speed bar, oh no. But he'll still do his empowered attack after that if you don't control him by then, right? Or you'll just move Mephisto to offense. Or you have your Professor X on one team of defense and your Mephisto on another team. They got to choose where to use their Professor X, where to choose their Mephisto. And then the game is what the game has always been. It's balanced in that sense. Unlock Mephisto. He's dope. He's dope. Professor X looks dope too. I can't wait to unlock this character. This is so hype for me. My favorite, actually my first cartoon I watched as a kid was X-Men the Animated Series with my dad. I'm super excited. Lots of feeling goes into that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you're as pumped for Professor X as I am. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye for now. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun. And I'll see you in the next one.